Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Buster Blader deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one, guys, because you guys have been requesting this one like crazy since the ban list came out, and I'm really excited to bring this to you guys because this deck is a really fun deck to handle Dragon Link and a lot of the decks that are running around in the meta right now. It's just an overall really fun deck, and we just got Buster Dragon, the Destruction Sword, back, which is insanely good that we got that card back, and it makes the deck so much better than it was, which is really, really great. So without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on your screen, become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below because we have all those awesome rewards, you guys, like getting your name screwed in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Buster Blader. Basically, this card gains 500 attack for every single dragon monster on your opponent's side of the field, which is pretty good, and it's a really good card to be able to use to go into your copy of Buster Blader, the Destruction Swordsman, which is an insanely good card as well. Then we play 1 copy of Buster Blader, Destruction Swordmaster. This card is really good too. You only play it as one of, it basically counts as another Buster Blader, which is why you play it, and it becomes Buster Blader while on the field or in the graveyard, and if a monster your opponent controls is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the grave, you can target one of the destroyed monsters and equip it to this card, and then once per turn, you can send one monster you control that's equipped to this card to the grave to destroy all other monsters your opponent currently controls with the same type as that monster to the graveyard, which is a very unique effect, and I like this card a lot in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Buster Whelp, the Dragon, or the Buster Whelp of the Destruction Swordman. This card is really good because when this card is normal summoned, you get to add a Destruction Sword card from your deck to your hand, and it also has the ability that you get to activate one of each of these effects once per turn. You can either tribute this card to special summon a Buster Blader from your hand or grave, or if this card is in your grave and you control a Buster Blader, you can discard a Destruction Sword to special summon this card out, which essentially gives you a free kind of Buster Dragon, which is kind of cool to be able to just immediately Synchro summon into your copy of your Buster Dragon. We then play 2 copies of the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, which is newly unbanned at 3, which is insanely good. So basically what this card does is you get to target a Buster Blader you control, equip this card from your hand or field to the target, and then when this card is equipped to a monster, your opponent cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck at all. And then while this card is equipped to a monster, you can special summon this card and you'll use each of the following effects of it once per turn. So it's just a good 2 of. I feel like you don't need it any more than 2 because we have a lot of ways to search this card, and it's just an overall really, really, really good card. I would not play it at more than 2 in this build because it's just an overall 2 of to me. So we then played 3 copies of the Tenyi Spirit Adahara. Adahara is really good because it can special summon itself to your side of the field if you don't control an effect monster, and you can really quickly link it away for a lot of different plays in this particular build, and it's just an overall really good card. We then played 3 copies of Jester Confit. Same thing, kind of. You just special summon it to your side of the field. It's good for your link material. You don't have to have any requirements. You can special summon this card if you have 4 monsters on the field. If you have 0 monsters on the field, you just instantly get this card on your side of the field, and it's great for link plays. We play a single copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon and a single copy of Dark Magician. Basically, these are here to go into some really good plays in the deck to go into Dragoons, and it's just an overall really, really insanely good play to get your copy of Dragoons going first, set your traps, and then during your opponent's turn, you can pretty much go uninterrupted to go into your copy of your Buster Blader with Buster Dragon on your side of the field to essentially lock your opponent down where they can't play. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is really good in this deck because basically this card can get you any of your monsters that you need back as quickly as possible from the graveyard. 1 copy of Foolish Burial sends the monster that you need to the graveyard as quickly as possible to the graveyard. 1 for 1. You play a lot of level 1s in this deck, so this card's really good to get your level 1s on your side of the field. Red Eyes Fusion because you can go into your copy of Dragoons extremely quickly with this card. 1 copy of Destruction Swordsman Fusion. This card is kind of insane because what it does is it lets you fusion summon 1 monster that lists Buster Blader as a material from your extract using monsters from your hand or either side of the field as fusion material. And if this card is in your grave, you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard to be able to add this card back to your hand, which is a really good effect. 1 copy of Instant Fusion because we do still have Call by the Grave at 1. So this card is still pretty good to be able to go into your Millenniumize Restrict, so you play this card as a 1-up. 1 copy of Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave is really good too, because basically what this card does is it stops your opponent from all sorts of stuff with hand traps. This card is really, really good as a one-of in here. We then play 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Foolish Burial Goods lets you send the particular trap that you need to the graveyard to get your effects off, so it's really good as a 3-of in this deck. I really love this card in this deck as a to play at a 3, because you always want to open up this or one of the traps. You play 3 copies of Where Arfdal. Where Arfdal is really good because if you special summon out an Otahara, if you special summon out a copy of Jester Ko-Fi, you can then use your copy of Where Arfdal to add from your deck to your hand a copy of Buster Whelp, or if you normal summon out your Buster Whelp, you can then use the Where Arfdal to grab a copy of the Destruction Sword, which is why I only play it as a 2-of, and it's just an overall really good card to grab stuff from your deck. The only downside of this card is if you activate this card, you do take 2,000 points of damage if you don't normal summon the monster added, which is why it's very important to special summon out Otahara or your Jester Ko-Fi. If you don't have your copy of Buster Whelp, you can then use the copy of Buster Whelp, normal summon it, and then add a Destruction Sword card from your deck to your hand, which is probably going to be prologue to get you more plays going. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. Now, this deck is a primarily trap-based deck. I will mention you guys, this is the way the deck functions. So this is the very, very important part of the deck. So we're going to be playing 3 copies of Trap Trick, because it basically says, hey, you're basically playing 3 of every trap, 3 extras of every single trap, which is pretty cool. Either 5 to 7 or 5 to 6 copies of every single normal trap in the deck, because it can copy a trap, because you banish 1 normal trap from the deck, and then you get to set the same trap from the deck. So for example, I would banish a copy of the Destruction Sword Flash, and then I would immediately set a second copy of the Destruction Sword Flash from my deck to my side of the field, which is extremely powerful to be able to get any trap that you need. It searches them, it puts them on your side of the field extremely easily, and it's just an overall insanely good card. So we then play 2 copies of Destruction Sword Flash. Destruction Sword Flash is really good because basically when you control a monster that used a Buster Blader or lists Buster Blader as a fusion material, you can activate this effect to banish all monsters your opponent currently controls, and then when this card is activated, or when a card effect is activated that targets a Buster Blader monster you control, you can banish this card from the graveyard to negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card, which is a really good effect just to be able to negate stuff on your side of the field, or negate stuff to be able to stop your opponent from targeting your Buster Blader card, and it's just a really good card overall. But 2 copies of Destruction Sword Memories let you discard a Buster or Destruction Sword card, especially summon a Buster Blader from the deck, or the really good effect of this card is you can banish it from the graveyard to fusion summon a Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, from your extract by banishing materials listed on it from the graveyard, which is a Dragon and a Buster Blader card, which is pretty cool. And then we play 3 copies of Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman. This card is the most important card in the deck, single-handedly what makes this deck meta, because what this card does is it lets you send a Destruction Sword card and a Buster Blader from your deck to the graveyard, which is always going to be your copy of the Destruction Sword Memories, unless you have Foolish Burial Goods. In that case, you will always send your copy of the Destruction Sword, the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. You'll send this to the graveyard. And what it does basically is it lets you send those cards to the graveyard, and then you get to special summon a Buster Dragon from your extra deck, but destroy it during the next end phase, of the next turn. You can banish this card from the graveyard, and the Destruction Sword cards you control cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effect as well, which is a really insane effect. But getting that Buster Dragon on your side of the field and then rolling a Destruction Sword Memories to the graveyard along with a Buster Blader just totally gets you set up on your side of the field to be able to go into all sorts of plays, and it helps you just immediately activate this card. And if you have Dragoons plus this, and then you get a copy of the Destruction or Buster Blader on your side of the field along with a Buster Dragon, you've essentially locked your opponent entirely down and they can't play, which is really insane. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. Basically, this card negates the effects of all dragon monsters currently on the field and switches to the defense, and it gains 1,000 attack for every dragon on the field, and it does piercing damage, which is pretty cool. The only downside to this card is it can't attack directly. It takes a Buster Blader and a dragon monster to fusion summon in this card, but this is your boss monster, as you can see by the mat and the card. It is the most insane card in the entire deck. We then play 2 copies of Buster Dragon. Buster Dragon is a very unique card and a very neat card in this deck. It takes a tuner and a non-tuner. It's a level 8, and all monsters you control become dragon monsters, or all monsters your opponent control become dragon monsters. So essentially it makes it so that you lock your opponent into dragons, and then this basically makes it so all monsters that are dragons are switched to defense, negate their effects, and it gains 1,000 attacks, so it becomes a really big beat stick, which is insanely good. And has the ability that this card lets you target a Buster Blader monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and then once per turn during your opponent's turn, you can target a Buster Blader monster you control and equip it with a Destruction Sword monster from your graveyard. And it is a quick effect, so you can equip the Destruction Sword to it to make your opponent not be able to special summon from the extra deck, negate all their monster effects on the field, and you get a negate with your copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoons as well, so it's insanely good and insanely consistent. We then play a single copy of Protector Whelp of the Destruction Sword. You just play this card as one of, you don't go into it all that often, but basically this card is, if this card is link summoned, you get to send a Destruction Sword card from your deck to the grave, and then you get to special summon one Buster Blader monster from your hand, and at the end of the battle phase, if your opponent controls no monsters, you can target one Buster Blader monster you control that didn't declare an attack this turn, and inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack, which is pretty good just to be able to inflict additional damage to your opponent. It's just an overall really good card in the deck. Play a single copy of Dragoons because it gives you additional negations, and it makes sure that your copy of your Destruction Swordsman, your prologue, goes through really easily because you can negate stuff. It's just an overall really good card to burn your opponent by popping cards against him and be able to just negate stuff, and it can tank through a lot of stuff because it can't be destroyed by card effects, can't be targeted, and it's just an overall really insanely good card. One copy of Millenniumize Restrict. Millenniumize is really good in this deck because what Millenniumize does for the deck is it kind of works as a call by the grave, because your copy of your Instant Fusion, summoning this out to your side of the field, is going to help you a lot with a lot of different plays. Helps you out with link plays as well, so it's a really good card to play as a one-up. Play the same copy of Access Code because it can pop multiple things. One copy of Unicorn because it can spin stuff. Phoenix because it can pop spells and traps. IP because you can go into your copy of Unicorn during your opponent's turn. Anaconda because you can go into Dragoons with it. Linkribo because you play so many level 1s in the deck. And then for the 2 synchros, we're playing a single copy of Borreload Savage, because you can go into Borreload Savage pretty easily in this deck to be able to get you additional negations, especially with all these link monsters, and Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, because if this is going to get destroyed by a card effect, you might as well use your copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss to be able to synchro summon this away with a level 1 tuner, and immediately go for Abyss to get you additional negations and a 3200 beat stick. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really insanely fun deck to play with, and it's very consistent. Like, this deck is really consistent. I've done live duels with this deck on the channel, and it's just fun. Like, this deck is fun to play with. It helps out boards. It helps just totally lock your opponent down. And with Destruction Swordsman back, or the copy of your Destruction Sword back, it's just really good to be able to just put that card on the field and lock your opponent out of the extra deck. It's just a fun deck, and I highly recommend you guys pick this deck up if you haven't done so already. But anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next so you can come part notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.